We're on. Welcome to our program. I want to take just a moment to remember 22 years ago. I don't know where you were. Many of you, I'm sure, remember we lost over almost 3,000 people that day through 9/11.
Ask if they can hear you.
Huh?
Ask if they can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay. Can everybody hear? Can we get a thumbs up if you can hear?
Someone said you are on. We can get kicked.
Okay, good. Thank you. So where were you 22 years ago? I was in Alaska, just finished a presentation, and it was in the morning when I was notified that a plane had just struck one of the Twin Towers. And at first, I don't know how you reacted, but I didn't believe it. I thought, no, you're teasing. And then I saw it on the news. All traffic was grounded. I was up there in Alaska for almost a week before I could get away back home. But when I think of that tragedy that was designed to destroy the American spirit, to attack our country, and yet when I think about it, I see and I remember how people of all faiths, all religions, all colors, all ethnic groups, they all came together. We united. We didn't get weak. We got stronger. And I look at what's occurring in our country today, right now, and all the attempts to divide us, to create contention, to bring up issues that we can't agree on. And I think back and I remember, why does it take a tragedy to pull us together, to unite us? And yet that seems to be in our history. It's the tragedies that occur. I hope, in memory of those who sacrificed so much, that we can remember that we're one great big family. We're on this earth. We're going through a life experience. We can find the things that we hold common to each other and unite instead of divide. I know that there are forces out there, I really believe it, that are trying to create contention and division among all of us. And I hope that we'll rise above it, we will recognize it, understand it, and not allow it to affect us. But thank you for being here. And let's read some customer reviews, and then we'll answer some questions. If you have some questions, feel free to share them with Justice. He'll relay them to me. And then I'm going to share with you some techniques that are all designed to really work the core and their graduated movements. So let's start with, since we're going to be talking about abdominals, this is a good one for Luann. She says, I purchased a Cellerciser from David Hall about 6 months ago. I had problems from a horizontal abdominal incision hysterectomy for 5 years. David taught me step by step how to use a Cellerciser to strengthen the area and break down the scar tissue. I had dramatic results within the first week. What I thought could be a worsening, lifelong problem is gone. So we've had several people ask me about the lower abdominals, women asking me about the whole internal area. And we're going to talk about connective tissues and the fascias and what we can do to help tone and strengthen that in a way I don't think any other modality can touch. Okay. Tessa writes, it truly is the best exercise equipment I have ever owned, and I too have owned a lot of exercise machines. Thank you, Tessa. Gary writes, your hard work and dedication to your channel shows. Thank you, Gary. And Holly writes, my Cellercise experience has been wonderful and a godsend. I've always been an athlete and was a certified personal trainer in my late 20s. I've always taken care of myself and ate well, but everything started to change in my late 30s, and things that I always had done stopped working. I started getting cellulite, even though I was thin. And in 2008, I started having severe abdominal pains and edema. The doctors could not help me or identify what was causing my symptoms. Through the years, I would find things that would work a bit temporarily, but nothing helped long term. Then I started rebounding, but it hurt, so I could not understand why people said that this was good for them. So I started to do my research, and I noticed better sleep almost right away. The nighttime health bounce to relax the entire body really works. We've had that question come up already this week with people that want to know how to sleep better, so I'll share the technique with you in a moment. One night I could not sleep and realized I forgot to bounce before bed. I got up at 1:30, bounced for 2 to 3 minutes, went back to bed, and the next thing I remember is waking up the next morning. I've had chronic neck and back pain for as long as I can remember, and would often wake up in the morning with pain in these areas. After about a week, I noticed I was no longer waking up with any pain. I still get pain some days as days go on, but all I have to do is get on the Cellerciser for a few minutes, and once the pain is gone, and I'm good to go again. I also have irritable bowel syndrome, and bloating and gas can come on when I least expect it. As soon as I feel any discomfort, which can be as bad as a sharp pain through my upper back and shoulder, I get on the Cellerciser for a few minutes, sometimes 10 to 15 minutes if it's really bad, and most, if not all of the discomfiture is gone. I'm hoping over time that my symptoms will lessen and go away altogether. I've had these issues for 8 years, so I'm sure it will take time. During my 3rd week of Cellercising, I could not believe I was regaining my energy. I had to use stimulants just to get through the day, and even then I would have highs and lows. Each day I noticed more energy, clarity of mind, focus, and find it easier to remember things and names and information. I would normally forget right away. I also notice I can concentrate better and articulate my messages better during conversations. This is truly amazing, as I've struggled for years with these brain fog type issues. I had my hip pulled out of socket 19 years ago while giving birth to our 2nd daughter, and it never completely went back into place. A few days after doing the pendulum swing bounce with my left hip popped back into place, and my right pulled groin loosened up and stopped hurting. The lower back exercise helps relieve my back pain from my lordosis and mild scoliosis. I am laughing and enjoying life more, all without the need for stimulants. I know I have a long way to go, but seeing improvements here and there give me hope that someday to be pain-free and healthy once again. Thank you for creating the Cellerciser, the best rebounder mini trampoline on the market. Because of how the Cellerciser has improved my health, life, and my family's, I want to tell everyone and work until every household and office has at least one Cellerciser. I know the feeling. Thank you for letting me be part of the Cellercise movement, and I could not think of a better calling other than parenthood and helping others look and feel their best. God bless. And thank you, Holly. That was beautiful. Justice, yes. Do we have a question?
We have a question. Good afternoon. What exercise can we do for varices problems?
For what?
Varicose.
Varicose?
V-A-R-I-C-E-S.
I think it meant varicose, varicosity. Just the movement up and down helps get rid of trapped blood proteins, helps open up blood vessels, and helps assist the heart in moving circulation through your circulatory system. When the weakest areas of circulation, where we usually notice a lot more of the problems, is in the lower extremities. That's because it's the furthest area from the heart. It's harder for the heart to pump those blood cells up. And when the body becomes more acidic, the blood cells get sticky, it's even harder for the heart to pump that circulation back up. And so we get these little spider veins and varicose veins and swelling and edema. When we get on the Cellercise and we start to just move up and down 3 to 5 minutes every day, I think it's essential. It breaks up the sticky blood cells. They've got the sodium-potassium pump. They generate a field of energy around the outside of the cell membrane that keeps them separated while you move up and down and increase circulation, oxygen, nutrients through the cell membrane, imbibing them with more fluid, more nutrients, more oxygen. And now as you move up and down, you move those individual blood cells back through the capillaries. So it's easier. The circulation improves. I think Cellercise is essential every morning for everybody to do at least 3 to 5 minutes if we want to have a better activity during the day or feel better and perform better. Anything else, Justice?
Nope, we're good.
Okay. Beatrice asks exercises for arms. And in our Mr. Rebounder app, we have several techniques, but I can show you some of those techniques as well. But if you go to create your own and add movements, you'll have 65 different movements. A lot of them are dealing with the arms. But what I do is I'll do, and on the Mr. Rebounder app, it's 1, 2, 2, 2. I count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and down. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to really work the whole front part here and the back part of the arm here, because you're pushing down and pulling up, and then you switch. And I'll do maybe 20 of those. And the other things you can do is just, if you want to work more on the outside, just resistance and then bounce while you're resisting, and just feel like that, and then push in. And that's for the chest and the shoulders, and you count to 20 and then pull out again to 20, and that works the back, it works the arms, it works the chest, and the whole thing is working the arms anyway, because it's all weight bearing as you're moving up and down. Okay. Sahara writes, do you do stretching as a separate routine to maintain suppleness of joints and muscles? Any specific Cellerciser stretches that you recommend? And yes, there's some great movements. In fact, we talk about the movements here for shoulders, and this one for the back. You just take your arm, hook underneath. Great movement for stretching the shoulders and the scapula behind the shoulder blades. You've got another movement here. You obviously do the same thing. You've got for the back, you've got stretches where you tilt a little bit to open up the vertebral joints in the back, and then when you feel the tension, just stop, gently move up and down, allow the circulation to improve, and the movement up and down is moving that fluid. And then you take the right leg, holding onto the balance bar is helpful, and then just cross the arm in front, and that helps to target more of the lower back. You do the same thing on the other side. And many of you have seen the movement where you just reach down and just kind of tilt backwards, and you can feel that stretch in the lower back as well. And I'll often, just because I can get a little more stretch, is take my hands and I'll just put them right here and just kind of gently bounce up and down, and just to get some more flexibility. I left the balance bar off on purpose because some people were asking, how do you put the balance bar on so it doesn't fall off? And I wanted to show that to you. But Justice, you had another question?
I think, but I don't know how to find it. They said, what exactly was he doing with his hands?
Oh, okay. So you're pulling up and pushing down at the same time, but I believe it's important you have movement. Don't just static. Don't just do resistance. You're moving up and down and you're bouncing to move the fluid. So the increase of the bounce also adds more weight to the cell membrane, but you're not tearing it down to build it up. So it's done when you're bouncing, you're just pushing down and pulling up, but you're resisting. You're making it so that there's resistance on the arm as you count and you bounce, and then down, count, and then bounce. And then on this one, pushing in and then pulling out. And that just really works this whole area of the body while you're bouncing. So that's more weight bearing. The advantage of that is you're not limiting the effect only to those muscles. When you're bouncing, you're still putting weight on all muscles throughout the entire body, the whole fascia from the inside out, not just those muscles. So any other questions? Yeah.
No, we're good.
Okay, so I want to show you how to put the bar on, so it's not an issue. You lift the Cellerciser up. Can they see okay, Justice?
Yeah.
We're going to take the rubber foot off the leg.
Wait. Everything just appeared.
Very good. Take the other rubber foot off the leg. And then what I do is I take the bar, and it's got movement in it, which is supposed to, but I'll just slide it over the two legs like that. Just kind of pull it up some so that you have room to put the rubber feet back on. And then when I put the rubber feet back on, I hold the bar from sliding down and just drop it right back down. All right. About fun, right? It's about love handles. Will this exercise build? I really do this because as a female, I don't want to increase the waist size. I have a tendency to build muscle pretty easily, even at 58 years old. Want to stay trim, but not beef up. Cellercise doesn't tear down to build up. It is weight bearing, but it's not tearing. So you're not going to get bulky doing a Cellerciser unless you want to by doing, you can do weightlifting and then 30 seconds of Cellercise and then weightlifting again, and you'll build up the body faster. But for most of us, that's not what we do. But yes, that was one of the hardest ones for me to figure out, is how do you get to the love handles? And that movement here, it's not going to build a, you'll still have your girly figure, because when you kick out, all of these muscles are just going to firm up. They're just going to get firmer and more toned. And so that's just done by holding on to the balance bar and just kicking out side to side. It's weight, but it's not a whole lot of weight. It's going to tone that area. I've never known Cellercise to bulk somebody really up, but it does give them definition. So you'll probably have more definition. It will be firmer here. It's not like just lifting your leg up and doing these. It's fine, but with Cellercise, you're lifting the leg up with a lot more leverage, a lot more weight on it, because you're bouncing up and down. So it's going to be more effective. It's going to build it stronger and faster. And that's, again, just kicking out side to side. And, all right. Jealous writes, what exercise can you do on a mini trampoline to help with push-ups? Yeah. The one I just showed you, where if you're pushing in, all these muscles all around, they're going to build up and get stronger. It's all weight bearing, but you have resistance and weight to help build that area up. And we've had many people, girls included, my daughter, for a good example, she's Cellercise all her life. She doesn't do women's push-ups on the knees. I mean, she does regular push-ups, and she does quite well. So you just find that you can do things. I think I shared this already with the military person who challenged me to see how many push-ups I could do in a minute. And I'd never done it before, and I've never done it since. But it was on the spot, and I said, I don't know how many I can do in a minute. So I lay down, I did my push-ups, and he told me how I needed to do them. And when we were done, in 1 minute, I'd done 116 push-ups. And that impressed me and them, but it was fun. So yeah, there's a lot of things you can do when you Cellercise that you wouldn't know otherwise until you challenge yourself. So many things I didn't know I could do until other people challenged me to say, well, can you do this or can you do that? Oh, Jeff says, talk more about your book. We're working on it. The book is going to be basically a whole program that you can apply in your own personal life so you can reach your greater health potential by more effectively taking charge of your internal and external environments. And that's it in a nutshell. There's basically 7 steps to the program, and every one of them is vitally important. One of them deals with communication processes that occur within the body and what gets in the way of those communication processes that gives us so many of the different illnesses and weaknesses that we have in our society today. And when we can increase and strengthen the signal, often those issues just fade away. Learning how to work with the body, understanding how to provide for its needs, because the cells of our body are imbued with an intelligence. They know how to create, maintain, and heal the body so effectively, far better than any doctor or health practitioner. So by working with the cells and learning how to work with the cells, then the cells can do their job. And that's really what I believe a big part of medicine is. So it says, hi Dave, I'd like to hear about what balancing does for balancing hormones and bone density for women. And that's from Be Beautiful. Thank you. Well, we know that Cellercise creates an enormous amount of balance in the body because we're challenging the balance mechanism. If we have imbalances in the body, but we're moving up and down equally, then the body has a tendency to balance itself out. When we do the strength and balance test on people, that's a literal strength and balance test, which many of you have probably experienced. It's real. I've often thought that Cellercise doesn't just affect physical balance. I believe it also affects chemical balance. And we've seen and heard from numerous men and women that have led me to believe that that's very true. When we're moving up and down, we are weightless, weight, weightless, weight, over 100 times a minute. We're challenging the thyroid, the adrenals, the entire endocrine system collectively is moving up and down. And I believe that as we're doing that moving up and down at the top of the balance, where we are weightless, we don't have any restrictions on the body, the communication processes within the body can work more effectively. And then as we come down, the body collectively as a whole is working. And so as we're constantly doing this, the thyroid is doing this, the adrenals are doing this, the entire endocrine system is doing this. And yes, we've seen the effects that it has on people. We need more research to be done in those areas. But I really believe that there is a lot to that. Thank you. Porch Lights writes, hello. I would like to know the effect rebounding has on degenerating discs. The L5, the S1, positive or negative things. Well, one of the values of Cellercise is it's gentle, it's not jarring, it's not like jumping up and down and hitting a hard surface, but there is resistance. We have to have resistance to build up bone density, and to move fluid through the body. If it's sluggish, then we're not really going to get much in the way of those results. So when we're on the Cellerciser and we're doing some of these movements where we open up the vertebral joints and we gently move up and down and do some of these movements, the hip rock or the shoulders move up and down for the back. These are gentle movements, but we're applying weight and pumping with more circulation. Doing movements like this. All of these movements help to move fluid between the vertebral joints to the disc, and the doctors call that imbibition or imbibing the disc with more fluid, and the disc, like a sponge getting water, can actually start to expand. As we get 19, 20 years old, we lose natural circulation to the disc, so if we're not getting circulation to the disc, they can shrink. As we get older and we're more sedentary, as those discs shrink, we get more pressure on the nerves. As we open up the vertebral joints and loosen up those muscles and move fluid to those discs by these different movements, those discs can literally start to expand again. Yes, Justice?
We have a question from Karen Farrell that says, need help with core strength, having back issues, spasm resulting from a functional scoliosis, seeing chiropractors and physical therapists, want to add Cellerciser back into my daily fitness.
Okay, well, I'm going to hold that question because I should cover that when we're talking about core strength in just a moment. But thank you, good question, perfect question. All right. Mary writes, you have a warehouse in Europe. Mary, I'm sorry we don't. There's lots of opportunity. If somebody knows somebody is able to take advantage of that, I'd love to work with them. Reba writes, can you train every day with just that? Also for the upper body? Oh, absolutely. I've been doing this. This is the only exercise that I get, and I've been doing it for over 30 years now. And I don't think there's anything like it. I really don't. I see people knocking themselves out, targeting all these muscle groups and body parts. It's fine. You can do that, more of a sport, but I deal more on a natural level. And I do it in a way that typical exercise often doesn't, by altering the angle of our body in different positions to create leverage and becoming strong in those altered positions. And that's going to give you a great advantage in your normal day-to-day activities. Yes, Justice?
Shauna, I accidentally missed her question. Shauna says, I have the app, was curious if the exercises with the adding pressure to hands.
Yes, they are. They are. They're in the arm curls. We've got shoulders. So it's going to be, it's in alphabetical order. Nope. I'll show you. Okay, and we've got great stretching movements as well. There we go. Well, there's one of them. And that's working the back of the arms, pushing down and pulling up, pushing down and pulling up. But we also have the arm curls. I'm just not finding them. All right, come on. Shoulder stretching. Nope. Huh. They're in there. There we go. All right. So there's an idea of one of the movements, and it can show you how to do that. And you put the amount of time you want to do the movement. We've got some routines in the advanced and intermediate section that you just pick one of the routines and you can automatically do it. Or you can change it and add whatever you want. But there's several movements like that on the app. Yes, Justice, do you have another question?
We're good.
We're good, okay. Do you Cellercise before strength training or after? Okay, well, Cellercise is strength training, but if you're talking about bodybuilding, that kind of strength training, again, Cellercise is going to pretty much enhance any activity that's out there, whether it's yoga, martial arts. If you're doing weightlifting, they actually did a test, Dr. Larry Getman, National Aerobics Institute in Seattle, Washington, where they showed if you incorporate 30 seconds of Cellercising or rebounding in between a circuit weight training program, so you're on one circuit, you rebound 30 seconds, do the next circuit, you can grow in your overall results up to 26% faster. You're getting rid of the lactic acid. You're going to be stronger after you've Cellercised a little bit, and you're getting oxygen and nutrients to that tissue faster too. So yeah, you want to do it through the course if you can. But if you can't, then I'd recommend doing it before, because it's going to warm up the tissue. You're going to be less likely for injury. Florin writes, hey Dave, I remember you mentioning you drink distilled water. How long ago did you start, and what are the benefits? Can you talk a little more about it? Yeah, I drink distilled water, but I put ionic minerals or electrolytes in the water to help balance that water out. We are learning more and more about water, and even bottled water, and some of the challenges that many of us have. We don't want to live in a dirty, polluted environment. We don't want to expose the cells of our body to a dirty, polluted environment either when we're trying to be healthier. And so for me personally, I just still, most of my, not all, I'm not crazy about it, but most of the time when I'm up here in my office, I'll be drinking distilled water that I've put the minerals in, and that's what I drink during the day. Reverse osmosis is also good. Dennis, have you heard any users that have improved, Dennis writes, have you heard any users that have improved their numbness with foot neuropathy? Yes, we have. People that do it up to 20 minutes to help increase circulation. And it's improved it or arrested it. People have, most of them that I've talked to have noticed results within about 20 minutes. Yes, Jess.
Julian has a question about the water bottle. She
Oh.
says, are you buying it in a plastic bottle? I used to and stopped because of the plastic.
Yeah, good. That's good. This is one of the safe plastics, but that being said, if I could find a container like that's glass, I'd probably do that instead. I agree, or a ceramic. So yes, supposedly this is supposed to be the safe kind, but that being said, I think it's safer if you have, a glass jug or something like that you can use.
She said, I recently purchased a zero water filler, but still searching.
Oh, good. All right. Okay. Thank you for sharing. Fueled by plants. Oh, I remember this person. This is great. My husband has recently been diagnosed with a rare and aggressive form of leukemia. Would it be beneficial for him to start rebounding? Are there any studies about rebounding in cancer? Thank you so much for all you do. Yes, there are examples of people who have Cellercised when they had cancer and had incredible improvements. Dr. Morton Walker actually talked about a gentleman who had cancer that was supposed to take his life. He did a lot of rebounding, and it was, he lived through it, and he became the assistant dean of a university, I believe. But when you get on that Cellerciser, you run as fast as you can for 1 minute. You can increase the number of active white blood cells in your body by 10 to 15 times. They'll stay there for up to 1 hour. So you can give yourself your own natural antibiotic every hour if you want, every couple hours, every few hours. Talk to your doctor. But Cellercise has been known to improve the immune system's ability to function more effectively, so that the white blood cells are able to find the foreign invaders, because they have a DNA signature that doesn't match the DNA signature that the body is supposed to have, and therefore the objective is that there's a whole process that the body can attach antigens to the foreign invaders, send out signals, the macrophage can come and destroy them, or cytotoxic T cells, which are graduated lymphocytes, they can go after and destroy the cancer cells too. So our objective is improve the ability of the body to do what it already knows how to do. Yes, Jessica.
Another question about the water bottle. Shauna asks, what type of minerals do you add?
They're ionic, water-soluble liquid minerals. And I'm going to have more information on our website probably within the next couple weeks. So watch for that. I'll put it up. And they're minerals that mirror the minerals out of the ocean that offer over 78 different ionic minerals. Now, we don't know what all the minerals in the body do, but we know that the cells of our body use those minerals to communicate. And if the proper minerals are not available in our diet, then the cells are intelligent enough that they can often use the next closest mineral on the atomic weight schedule that gives the cell the ability to communicate, but you don't have a clear signal now. You have fuzzy reception, and then you develop a weakness in the body. So I think it's important. I think those ionic minerals are very important, and I'll be sharing more information about that. Ask me again on our next program, because we should have that on our website. Okay. Mary writes, I think I read that Cellercise helps with things like fungus. This is an interesting question. I read this earlier. Things like fungus or yeast infections and that sort of thing. What I'm wondering is if a person has something technically an organism on board, such as a fungus or a tick or a leech or tapeworm or cancer or ringworms, and they go on the Cellerciser, why doesn't that bad organism also get stronger? Why does it go away? Does it make the cells of the body stronger so they can fight? But then why don't the bad things get stronger too? Does this make sense? I've pondered that question before myself, wondered about it. And I don't have a complete answer on it. I do know that when the immune system's ability to function is more efficient, then the stronger blood cells or the civil defense system of our body can go after and destroy it. I remember my own case when I was bit by 7 ticks, and that was 30 years ago, 30 years ago. And I ended up with a bullseye ring on different areas of my body. Got really sick, and in Utah at the time they said that Lyme's disease didn't exist here. So I didn't go to the doctor. I got really sick. I Cellercised. And when I did go to a medical center, Sierra Medical Center in Reno, Nevada, Dr. Fong, they did microscopy and looked at my blood cells. And they noticed a spirochete, which was from the Lyme's disease. A spirochete was bouncing off my blood cells. It couldn't get in to the blood cells, which is probably why, to a large degree, it never bothered me. And I talked to another doctor and said, well, you've got a strong immune system, I wouldn't worry about it. But what Dr. Fong noticed was that the white blood cells were having a hard time propagating. They couldn't grow because they couldn't get into the red blood cells through the cell membrane. Well, when we're Cellercising, we're putting more weight on the cell membrane. The cells simply respond by fortifying their membrane with more protein because they don't want to rupture. But since Cellercise is on every cell through the body, these G forces, not just muscles, but all cells, then your cells get stronger and your civil defense system can be more effective in getting rid of those foreign invaders. And yeah, it's not, we have a great health potential. We should feel strong and healthy. And our immune system's job is to recognize and go after and destroy those foreign invaders. So there's a whole civil defense system built within the body that can recognize those foreign invaders if we can help the body do the job more effectively. And Cellercise, I really believe, does that. Any other questions, Justice?
We're doing good.
Okay.
Everyone is just excited for the book.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, you know, it's the book's interesting because we've got it outlined. We're adding content. I'm adding content. I need to get, but there's a whole history behind how this came about in my life and in the stories. And I just, I'll share one of them. is kind of interesting because I was at the National Health Federation in Pasadena, California, and I was doing a demonstration, and well, let me show you. I'm just taking a shortcut. Okay. So, this is my 19-year-old unit, so it's a little dirty, but works great. Okay, so I was at a booth, and a lady came over to me. She saw me working with the public. She came over and she said, "I've got something I think you're supposed to have." I said, "What's that?" And she takes out a 24-karat gold pendant. I'll bring it next time so I can show it to you. It had an emerald in the middle of it, and it had 6 red rubies on the outside with spokes that went toward the middle. And I looked at that and I thought, oh my gosh. Well, I had just been writing basically it was a vision that I had on a dream, and I was trying to get it all written on paper, and I'd driven from Utah to Pasadena, and so I had a lot of time to be working to get what was in here on a piece of paper. And I had put it on a napkin. When I'd stopped at a restaurant, I'd put it, that's it, that was it, it was part of the story. But I told Renee she said that she was Tony Robbins' psychic, and when she came over, and I said okay, and I said, wait a minute. I ran out to the truck. I came back with a napkin. What I had written on that napkin was what Renee was giving me. That was the symbol of what cellology was represented. There were 7 steps, 6 spokes. The 7th was the one in the middle. It happens when all the other 6 are being practiced in our lives. Well, that really had chills going up and down me. And as people were coming by and looking at the Cellerciser, I picked it up to show them the features. Mat material, springs, the legs, rubber feet. And as I'm explaining it to them, it dawned on me right at that time, as I looked down, we've got the 6 steps, with the center being ourselves in the middle. And I realized at that point, wow, what had been revealed to me wasn't mine. It was alive. And I've seen that over and over again. I call it cellology, and it's the practice of health at the cellular level. And it recognizes we're in a partnership relationship with our body, and how we provide for it today has a lot to do with how it's going to be able to provide for us tomorrow. So I basically just show steps that we can take to reach that greater health potential. And that's what the book is designed to be, and I really believe it's out of this world. I mean, it came to me. It's fascinating. And you'll hear more about that and the other things that I've discovered when we get it finished. But yes, Justice.
We have a question from, I took a picture because I knew it was going down. From Sarah, it says, what is the best exercise for pelvic floor prolapse?
Good. Now we're ready. We are ready to talk about the, I'll just leave that off. Hardcore. Okay, so starting off, if you have a weak pelvic floor, or if you have a prolapsed uterus, and we don't want to just move up and down, but we want to strengthen from the inside out, not just from the outside in. Justice, can you move the camera down so they can see me? We sit down on the Cellerciser. It's good? They say, okay. We sit down on the Cellerciser. We can put our hands right by our hips to help support our back. And then we tilt backwards slightly. So we don't have just the vertical. We have a little additional support here while we build these internal connective tissues and the fascia as well as the muscles. So we can control the movement. If you have a medical condition, of course, consult with your doctor. You can share this with your doctor or have the doctor give me a call, because there are many different approaches we can take toward this. But by sitting back, and we've helped a lot of people with this, we gently move up and down just like this. You can do it watching TV. I'm not moving because of my arms. I'm moving because of the internal muscles right here, these core muscles. You're just giving your back a little extra support while you're building up your back. And so it's just like this, very gentle. But the moment you tilt, you can take your fingers, feel how tight those muscles are. Now, as you're moving up and down, you're moving the internal structure. You're putting weight on it over and over, gentle weight. The body responds to the increase of weight by becoming firmer and stronger. So again, lady wrote me a beautiful customer review, kind of sums it up. She said, David, as I was hitting midlife, I felt like everything was headed south. Now that I've been Cellercising, I feel like everything's headed north again. I get that. I get that. So just this gentle moving up and down. Now as you get stronger, yeah, you can take away your hands. And you're bouncing up and down. Now it's even more intense right here. But you've graduated to that. I tell people, you don't have to work hard on it, play on it. It'll work hard on you. It's automatic. But this is all, this movement, it's all working these areas of the body. There are men who I've talked to and who've had hernias. And if the hernia is a fairly fresh hernia, you can actually take your hands and hold those areas that are weak, you hold them in while you're gently moving up and down. And that can help those muscles to knit and tighten around that weak area. You're pushing in that area to help give it that additional support while we're building it back up again. I don't know many exercises that are going to do that. Then, as you're gently moving up and down, if you want to leverage more weight to strengthen the lower abdominals even more, you're tilted backwards a little bit and just lift up one leg. It's all being done right there. Those muscles, you just leverage all that much more weight on that whole abdominal region. When the leg gets tired, lift up the other leg. Those are graduated movements. Don't start off this way, but eventually you become strong enough, you can lift up both legs. It's all being done right with those stomach muscles. And then for those who really want to go after the core, well, go ahead. This is working the obliques, or in and out, or up and down. You know, I don't know if a sit-up that's going to work the core as effectively. But initially, if you have any issues in this area, you can regulate the amount of weight or stress simply by how far you tilt. This is so gentle right here. And yet, if you take your fingers and push in, the moment you tilt back, you have weight on there. Now you can regulate how far back you tilt as well. It's under your control. But if you give a little additional support and bounce, you can do that also. But it's not just working the surface muscles. Cellercise is working all the internal muscles as well, which has a huge amount of benefits. We don't want to have a hernia. We don't want to tear. We want to keep the internal structure firm and healthy, and that can do that. Let your back get strong before you do too much of that without your hands supporting you. Now, another way to do this is to stand on the Cellerciser as you move up and down, and frankly, this is, I'm going to take my little socks off here because I prefer to do this in socks or barefoot. And this one here is you just want to lift your knees up to get to your core. You can't really do that on the ground the same way because you're hitting a hard surface, and it just doesn't work very well lifting your knees up real high and running in place. But on the Cellerciser, you have enough support and enough resistance that these core muscles are going to get stronger. And that's simply by lifting your knees up. So it's just like this. And as you're jogging in place, all you have to do is stand there, lift your knee up. You feel the muscles automatically tighten. Well, when you're jogging in place, those muscles are getting stronger because you're lifting your knee up as you're coming down. Then the next graduated movement, and this is all I do for my stomach muscles, is that as you're jogging, you can tilt backward slightly. And now all these muscles are tight. The whole time it's an isometric with an isotonic to build the muscles. And again, remember, we're doing not just these muscles. It's all the internal muscles as well as the rest of the body. That's what makes Cellercise so efficient. And then the one that I do for my stomach muscles is in its leverage, and I usually grab the balance bar. When I do it, we usually have it on, I just turn to the side, I grab the balance bar, and I just do my kickouts. So it's just like this. And this is why I like to have my socks on, because as I come down, boom, that's a lot more leverage. And that gives you a flatter stomach. When you do the sit and bounce one, it gives you a little more rounded muscles. Personally, I like the flatter look, but that's just what I do. Those are all core. Whether you have weaknesses on the inside or the outside, and you want to work that core, those movements will do that. Now, we're working the stomach is important, but it's also important to work the back. And we can do that simply by leaning forward with that balance bar, and then just basically just kicking your legs up behind you. And as you come down, the bar gives you the ability to lean a little bit more without worrying about falling over. But as I come down, I'm strengthening that back. Now don't overdo that, because if you haven't done that before, you may simply be doing this. And that's okay. Just by tilting forward a little bit, you're working the muscles. As the muscles naturally become stronger, your leg will become straighter, and that helps to lift the buttocks and the back up as well. Any other questions?
We're doing good.
We're good.
But Julian did say, I cannot wait for this book. It sounds similar to the one I'm reading now, and it's fascinating. Heart emojis. Best of luck and love with all you do. Heart emojis.
Oh, you guys, you're great. Thank you. Thank you for making a difference in the lives of those you care about. We're living in some really interesting times right now. We really don't know what's around the corner. We don't. I'm glad you have a Cellerciser. Feel free to share anything, if I've shared anything that makes sense, that you think might be able to help somebody else. I know that I am so grateful to all of you for what you share with me. I'm so grateful for what this has done for me in my life. And it's a pleasure and it's a great honor. I'm answering the phone as much as I can personally, because I want to connect with you. And I want you to feel the power behind the Cellerciser and why it works. We have people that are still calling us. They've been Cellercising for 20 years, 25 years, and the units are in great condition. Mine is going to be 20 years old this next year. It's 19 years old. It's been everywhere, all over the world. It's the exact same mat, springs. We use it every single day. That's my personal unit. And you notice a lot of people out there talking about how noisy they are. Yeah, just go to my website if it's squeaking and take a look at what we do, because my unit's built just like yours, all the same materials. And what you can do to make sure that your unit is quiet too if it's bothering you. The good news is that those springs, they're not going to stretch out on you. You'll have them 10 years from now, 50 years from now. They should hold up, and they have. The only thing that compromises a spring that I've seen is if somebody lands on one, and then it can fracture because it's a really strong steel. But yes, Jessica.
Stephanie says, love my Cellerciser. How about the foot health?
Foot health?
Foot health, are there moves to strengthen feet?
Yeah, there's a couple that come to mind right off the bat. Just doing the hip rock side to side is working the ankles of the feet, and you're pushing down a little bit in that mat. Doing the twist is working the feet, but the best is this, simply coming up and down, lifting the heels up and down. As you lift the heels up and down, you're working the arches, you're working the toes, you're working the ankles. Everything is working on those feet. That increases circulation and strength. Thank you. We'll see you in a couple weeks. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. I'm more than happy to help. Thank you very much. Be well.
Wait, another question.
Oh, yeah.
Last question, sorry.
That's all right. Go ahead.
The last question are, what are the best moves for rounded shoulders?
Oh, good exercise, or good question. All right. We've talked about this a little bit, and that's literally to take the palms of your hand, turn them out. Just turn them out. And when you turn it out, it expands the chest and moves the shoulders back. Now you've got the skeletal system in a better alignment. We want to strengthen the muscles around that alignment. So that's when we just gently bounce up and down. And as you take your chin and you pull your chin in a little bit, that works the neck, shoulders, and back. All you're doing is holding the position and allowing the muscles to be strong, become stronger around that alignment. And that's what Cellercise does. Thanks again.